T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Welcome, everybody. You Get the Horns Sports. What's going on, brother? How you doing tonight?
Doing good. Still stuff from Thanksgiving, but doing well.
Absolutely, man. How was the Thanksgiving there for you and the family?
Doing good, man. It
You
went
had
well.
quite a spread laid out there, man. It was looking good. What'd you do? So you had, like, what was a 24-pound turkey?
Dude, yeah, 24-pound turkey had to smoke, so that was quite a process, but it worked out perfect. It ended up getting done right as everything else was getting pulled out, so it was nice and fresh and hot. So, man, 24-pound turkey, 10 people. How many kids? 2 kids. Like literally, I think I had 2 legs and some wings left over, man. I was like, dang, dude. They got mowed through very well. So, yeah, how about you? I know you all laid low, right?
Did lay low, yeah. Just the missus and I this year, we made a very good meal. I broke out the cast iron, did some really good pork chops, which hadn't had pork chops in a while. And then she made a marinade that was really good. And then we did some, I'm trying to think, some garlic mashed potatoes and some Brussels sprouts and bacon.
What?
Made a little custom cocktail there. She found she came up with a good recipe for, it was a bourbon cocktail with a pumpkin simple syrup. And it was good. It was good.
Sounds good.
We had a very good meal.
Yeah, we had everyone bring like make their own drink type of thing. So so we did a bourbon pineapple Sprite with what was the like a cinnamon stick in it. So very good.
There you go.
And really, you can only use the specific bourbon for it. Knob Creek. I don't know what it is about Knob Creek. It's not a great sipping drink for me, although, the price of it, you would think that it should be, but I don't like the sip of it, but mixing it with the apple cider and a little bit of I think it was 7-Up maybe. Man, good. So and then we had pumpkin mimosas. So it was good time.
Nice. So. Yeah, nothing wrong with that, man. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, my favorite time of year, man. I love Thanksgiving. It's like the get together with family with no, there's just no agenda, right? It's just get together.
Not as much pressure.
Have fun, eat food. Now Christmas is coming up. And it's like, all right, what do we get? What do we get the person that has everything, and then people, hey, what do you want? Literally, I want nothing. Do not get me anything. I don't want anything, because what you are going to get me is just not going to be worth my time or your time. So
that's right.
Yeah.
If all I wanted was that, I would have already gotten it for myself.
I already got it. So yeah. So but yeah,
I get that. Good. Well, I know, we were texting, you and I, and then in the group chat as well, certainly caught up on some of the NFL games. So I figure, we'll start off a little bit in review of this past weekend's game. As always, we're not going to take a whole lot of time looking at those games, but, maybe 2 or 3 things that jumped out to each of us, and then we'll move on to a little bit of a look ahead. So, what jumped out at you about NFL Week 12?
Oh man, the Packers over the Lions, that was kind of a big one. Didn't really see that coming. But hey, Packers are hanging in there, 5-6. What a game at this point out of the playoff spot, playing so much better. Jordan Love. I mean, you saw it last week, or I mentioned it last week. The numbers him and Jalen Hurts puts up. No, in fairness, Jalen Hurts puts up a ton of rushing rushing touchdowns.
Right.
I won't say yards. He puts up a ton of rushing touchdowns, but it's always DeAndre Swift gets him down to the 1, and then he's like, "I got this.
Yeah, don't worry.
It's
my time to shine."
Yeah. Hey, someone push me in the back and push me in the end zone. But we talked about this early beginning of the season. We said, can the Packers go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love? And I said yes. I said I thought they could.
Yeah.
And I think Jordan's playing well, man. I mean, he's had his struggles for sure, but I mean, first year as being a starter, putting up very, very similar numbers that Aaron Rodgers put up when he first got in there. It's always the biggest difference is wins, right? So, I mean, Rodgers had them winning right away. They're struggling a little bit in Green Bay, but I like what they're doing, man. I still think they're an elite wide receiver away from being very competitive. Defense is playing a lot better. So, yeah, that was good. Jared Goff, man, he just had one of those games that you just expect Jared Goff to have, and he's going to have them, He didn't play terrible. It just, they could not get anything going in the first half. It's just, I guess Goff played decently well. I mean, to be honest, but he
didn't lose him the game. He just didn't win him the game.
Right, exactly. So, it's good. That was a good game. Cowboys, I mean, just steamrolled the Commanders. I got into a little bit on X. Someone was saying TJ Watt at this point looks like he could be on his way to his second defensive MVP award. Really should be his third. And I threw it out there, and I got a lot of traction on it on X. DaRon Bland, now his fifth interception return for a touchdown. DBs are like wide receivers. I don't think they're ever going to win the defensive MVP award.
Yeah.
But if anyone was ever going to win it, like, he's got to be mentioned in there anyways, right?
It's
I don't think
crazy.
he has a chance to win it, but
yeah,
and someone else brought up stuff that I never really looked into. So, I mean, obviously he had another pick six. The game was out of hand at that point. So it was kind of like how many of those interceptions are when, they're way out of hand. Someone brought up his stat. I don't know. It could be made up, but mentioned that he's giving up like 15 yards per reception. So it's kind of like, it maybe not, but that's still a very impressive stat. I mean, that's stuff that that's beyond Deion Sanders level. So that's very impressive.
Well, it is, and the other thing too is you could say, oh well, he's making these interceptions when the game is out of hand, Okay, great. But we're not talking about 5 interceptions. We're talking about 5 pick sixes. And that's a very different thing because, that's like what happens when you get the ball in your hand. Anybody can make the interception, right? If you're a good defensive back, any good D-back or safety is going to be making that interception. The issue is then what? Right. And that was the difference. Let's just, go back. You see what I happen to be wearing a Baltimore thing today. So let's think about Ed Reed, right? From that safety position, what happened after he made the interception was really the thing that was more magical than him making the interception, right? Ed Reed had a lot of interceptions, but it's not like that's the thing. When you watch Ed Reed clips, they're not him jumping up and intercepting the ball. They're him intercepting it and then returning it, and that's the thing that people remember and care the most about. And let's face it, interceptions aren't worth 6 points to your team.
Right.
Pick sixes are. And so, the fact that DaRon Bland is able to go back and get pick sixes, regardless of whether or not they're truly impacting the outcome of the game at the time that he's making them, he's still making them. And look, at the end of the day, you'd way rather have your player making those plays than not making those plays. So, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. If you're a Cowboys fan and you've got your guy out here getting pick sixes, don't look a gift horse in the mouth and be like, well, it doesn't really matter. It's not important to the game. The dude is doing something really impressive, and he'll probably never do it again. It's not going to be like an every season type of thing. It's just a fluke run. Take advantage of it. Enjoy it while it's there.
Yeah, it's such an anomaly to be able to do that. I mean, and he's still got another 6 games to add on to it. Yeah. So, very, very, very big anomaly. And then, I'm going to touch on it. And I'm not going to spend too much time because every time we talk about, our 3 big things, it always ends with the Steelers or starts with the Steelers. But fire Matt Canada, 58 straight games with no 400 yards of offense. The very first game they go out and put up over 400 yards of offense, 421 yards of offense to be exact, and end up beating the Bengals. Very, very much needed win. Puts them right back into second place in the North. Puts them well within playoff distance at this point. So very big. Really, you're putting up 421 yards. You expect more than 16 points. That should be somewhere in the neighborhood of 24, 28 points, really. So they got some work to do, but very impressive. Looked like a completely different team out there on offense. Kenny Pickett looked completely different. He looked like preseason Kenny, slinging the ball over the place, throwing the ball in the middle of the field, which apparently I didn't think he was allowed to do.
Yeah, so
apparently he wasn't
that.
allowed to do. Yeah, and just making some big time throws. There was a touchdown that they didn't rule a touchdown that Mike Tomlin didn't challenge. Blamed it on them not showing the replay on the board, but I'm like, bro, you have a whole person
of
up
people
there.
Yeah.
Multiple people up there looking at that stuff. Like, that should have been radioed down. Wait, that's two steps, a third step, and then he gets taken down. The ball comes out as he's being taken down. So, but yeah, I thought the Texans lost a golden opportunity. They went from probably being number 4 seed to now being completely out of the playoffs with that loss. So big win for Jacksonville. That hurt the Texans, though. That was a tough loss right there. That really could have solidified them, and really they would have been taking the lead, in their division. So yeah, those are mine.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll kind of piggyback off of that just a little bit. Are we finally starting to see, after God only knows how many years now, a decade, the AFC South starting to be a relevant division in the NFL? At least with 2 teams, right? Really, at least what we see right now between the Jags and the Texans, we have every reason to believe that good things are going to continue to happen with both of those teams, with good young quarterbacks, good receivers, some surprises like Tank Dell, who has come out of nowhere, right? You knew it in Jacksonville, particularly with the addition of Calvin Ridley. But now, in Houston, turns out maybe they have some receivers that are going to be doing the job as well. So it's going to get very interesting. And, they're only going to continue to be able to keep reloading because CJ Stroud's in his rookie year. You don't have that money due yet. So, and they've just become a much more appealing place for free agents.
Absolutely. And don't discount Indy. Indy's now in second place. Yeah. They're 7th right now in the play. Like, they would be in the playoffs, and that's without Anthony Richardson. So you get him back and they can build on that. So yeah, that's going to end up being a very competitive division. Like you said, something that hasn't happened in many, many years.
Yeah. And Jonathan Taylor now, thumb injury, he's having surgery. He's going to be out a couple weeks. So it's going to be interesting to see how they weather this storm. They've done pretty well with, Mr. Gardner Minshew in there at the quarterback position and have weathered the storm early in the season with no Jonathan Taylor, and now, progressively getting better as he's getting his legs under him. This is a tough time to have to lose him for a few games, but I do think, that AFC South could become an interesting division moving forward.
Yeah, I agree.
We also talked, I think it was last week or week before, about some teams are who you thought they were and some teams aren't who we thought they were. And sometimes that's a good thing and sometimes it's a bad thing. And when you have the matchup of the San Francisco 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks, you really had a good feeling that one way or another, we're going to see who's for real and who's not. And then the Niners beat up on them 31-13, and you realize that, okay, like, the Seahawks are good. They're a good team. They're a solid team, but they're not an elite team. They're not an upper echelon team. This Niners team is very capable of winning the Super Bowl, and the Seahawks are a good team. And we know we have a lot of Seahawks fans that listen to the show. People are very vocal about their support for the Seahawks when we post Seahawks content. And it's been good. They've had a good run, but the reality is they're just not an upper tier, upper echelon team quite yet to be able to compete against, the Niners of the world. And in a similar vein, the battle of the bottom of the barrel, the Patriots and the Giants, two teams that would think there's no way that our season could be getting worse than it is, and then they have to play against each other to where one has to win and one has to lose. Both deserve to lose, but the Giants somehow eke it out 10-7 over the Patriots. Mac Jones benched again. This is a thing where personally, I'm not even going to beat up on Mac Jones. I'm tired of people beating up on Mac Jones.
100%.
And if you listen to the guy talk, he sounds just like a beaten man, and it's got to be tough. Mac Jones is young. He has always had success in the, college ranks. He goes to this team. He has to step into Tom Brady's shoes. Unenviable for anyone. Then the team is losing. He's getting blamed. We know Belichick is not a pleasant guy to be around. So he's getting beat up by the coaching staff. And the fans are beating him up constantly. Then he's getting benched in games. But, I think you said it last week, or maybe even in our text chain, it's not like Bailey Zappi is going in there and then setting the world on fire the moment that Mac Jones gets sat down. There's no reason to believe that, if Mac Jones wasn't in there, the Patriots would be winning so many games. The Patriots are a bad team. And I do think that Mac Jones has taken a little bit too much of a beating for the state of the Patriots. That's just my take on that.
No, 100%. Someone came out, I think it was NFL Rookie Watch on X, and instead of the first one, I didn't agree with, but instead of drafting Jackson Smith and Jigba or Jordan Addison, Belichick chose Christian Gonzalez. I think that's probably it's tough, but I think that's probably good. But then it's okay. Instead of drafting George Pickens or Christian Watson, Belichick chose Cole Strange and Tyquan Thornton. Instead of drafting Amon-Ra St. Brown, Pat Freiermuth, or Nico Collins, Belichick chose Christian Barmore. So it's like he just hasn't done the kid any favors whatsoever.
And here's the thing. We know that Belichick and Nick Saban have a very, very tight relationship. Belichick knew everything that there would possibly be to know about Mac Jones before he ever drafted him. So this idea that people have spread these rumors saying, Mac Jones he doesn't take coaching. He's uncoachable. He's spoiled. He's a brat. He doesn't, he's mentally weak, all these types of things. I promise you, Belichick knew exactly the mental makeup of Mac Jones before he drafted him. Now, did he want to hurry up and draft him to make sure that he could just get a quarterback in there and figure I'll figure it out and I just want to prove that I can do it without Brady and I'll just grab the first guy I see even if I know that he doesn't have the mental makeup? Maybe. I don't know. I can't speak to that. It's certainly a possibility. But the idea that coaches have now found out how Mac Jones is, I just don't buy it. I just think it's more convenient scapegoating to say it's a Mac Jones problem in New England, and it isn't a Mac Jones problem in New England. Not that Mac Jones is saving the team by any stretch, but he's not killing that team. It's not like they're coming in with this great game plan and Mac Jones is just constantly screwing it up. That's just not what's happening. They don't have a game plan. More importantly, they don't have talent. And if you look at all of the positions on the team, like you just said, all of the draft, all of the different roles on that team, who can you name from the Patriots roster? Just random players at any position. How many Patriots players can you name right now? And there won't be very many. You couldn't probably, the average NFL fan could not name more than, I would guess, 3 to 4 players active on the Patriots roster, unless they are absolute Patriots fans. But the average NFL fan could not name more than 3 or 4 players on the Patriots roster right now. And with that being the case, everyone's upset about the quarterback. I just don't buy that, and I don't see how it makes sense. I mean, yeah, you're comparing him to Brady. Clearly, he's not Brady. Who is though, right? And that's the whole thing. But if most of the good young quarterbacks have good receivers, and then when they don't play well. And the moment they get them, they magically start playing a whole lot better. That's just the way it works. Funny,
Yeah,
but that is the way it works.
exactly. And this is, I think, an indictment on Belichick as well. Who is going
Yes.
to, if he decides he's going to leave New England, who is going to decide that they're going to give him the keys to the entire franchise?
Yeah.
This is why I don't think Washington makes any sense. I don't think they want to go from Ron Rivera making all the personnel choices and decisions to Bill Belichick.
Yep.
Now, if it was Bill Belichick of 15 years ago, maybe. But I mean, I don't think anybody wants that. And now, is he going to go somewhere just to be a coach? I don't know. That's why I think he still stays in New England. Look, they're going to have a top 3-4 pick at this point. One of those quarterbacks is going to be available, and he's probably going to take one of them. So it's more than likely, I think he's probably going to stick around and stay, unless they just decide to part ways. But him going somewhere else and taking full control, unless it is in a San Diego, which maybe they'll be willing to do, just because they need anyone to take that position at that point. It's not a good spot there outside of Justin Herbert. It's not a good position for them to be in. I mean, they got the offensive talent there, but they can't put it together. I mean, I wouldn't trust this guy to now have full control of personnel, making all these decisions. I don't know any team that they can clearly see what this guy's draft history has been. And it's not good. I'm sorry, it's not good. For as much as you want to say he's a phenomenal coach, he's a worse GM. And I wouldn't have this guy as my coach and my GM at this point in this stage of his career.
Yeah, totally agree. And then, moving past that, look, there's a couple odds and ends things, but I do think the biggest one that has to be touched on is, I think we can put a fork in the Buffalo Bills. And I'm going to give us, you and I, this show, a little bit of credit here. Because before the season ever started, we said very plainly that we felt like the window had closed on the Buffalo Bills. It felt like everyone else was improving, getting better, and they were staying the same. And very specifically said that staying the same in the AFC means you are getting worse because everyone else is getting better. And we specifically broke down what that looked like for the Ravens, what the Chiefs were going to do, what all of these other teams, and then the upcoming teams like a Jacksonville and these other ones that were only looking to improve. And then you had the Bills that are just trying to tread water. And we said very specifically, it feels like the window has closed for the Bills. And then you still had these people coming out saying, oh, the Bills could make it to the Super Bowl. The Bills are going to have a long playoff run. They're a tough team to beat. They're not that good of a team. They're a talented team. But they're not that good of a team. And I said, I texted this in our group chat, that before this game against the Eagles, it felt like it was the last stand for the Buffalo Bills this week. Like this was their last shot. This was it. You had to win this game. And they did try their best. I mean, it was a valiant effort. I mean, they went down swinging. There's no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, an L is an L on the schedule, and it doesn't matter what the score is or anything else. And they lost again, and Josh Allen turned the ball over again, and there are just too many issues there. And who in the world thinks that Stephon Diggs is going to stay on that team for another year? I mean, they've had so many issues, so many problems. Because obviously, whether he's just a malcontent as his personality or he's just minimally not very content being there, and then they've gotten worse around him. So if I'm him, I don't want to stay there, honestly. And there's no reason to believe it's going to improve. And he's in his prime. If anything, he's just on the other side of the hill of his prime. He has 0 seasons to be able to waste and wait to see if things are going to get better. And they don't seem to be getting better in Buffalo. And I think they're going to get a lot worse before they get better. They're not even that competitive in their own division when you now look at the Dolphins and what we thought the Jets would be with Aaron Rodgers. Clearly, that changes a lot. But outside of that, if you look at that division, I mean, they're not even the class of their own division anymore, much less the conference.
No, 100%. And now you've got their next few games, you got the Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Chargers, the Patriots, and then you end with the Dolphins. You know, they may win 2 more games this year.
That's right.
You know, they may end up as an 8 and they may finish under 500 at this point, which is look, we said that I did not expect them to finish under 500.
No, not that bad. No,
And
agreed.
they are right here on the verge of finishing under 500 these next 5. What do they got? 5 games left, I think.
I believe so.
Next 5 games.
Easy 3 of those could be losses. I'm not saying they will be, but
100%.
Dallas,
Right.
Miami, and Kansas City, those 3 could easily be losses. And then
Yep.
any one of those other ones could be an easy upset.
That's exactly right. Yep. I mean, you just never know when the Chargers are going to hang 35 on you. And then the Patriots always are going to play them tough. So it's, I mean, there's no guarantee they're even going to win, 2 of their next 5 games. But under 500 is definitely something we could see. And that would be a shock.
If that happens, I'm just going to ask you what you think of this. If the Buffalo Bills finish under 500, is Sean McDermott fired? Or does he still come back next year as head coach?
I think what it's going to be is a complete and total revamp of that team, but I think he stays. I think they're going to force him to just get all new coordinators and give him another year and try to build on that, because it really is just one off season. But, again, we talked about it. They had their opportunities to get someone like Dalvin Cook. No, look, Dalvin Cook's not setting the world on fire in with the Jets, but nobody is setting the world on fire with the Jets at this point without
and he's
Aaron
getting very
Rodgers.
few carries.
And that's exactly it.
And it's been well documented that Dalvin Cook has been very frustrated because this isn't what he thought he was getting into when he went to New York. And it turns out Breece Hall's getting the vast majority of the carries. Dalvin Cook goes in for a carry, comes back out, waits a while, goes in for 2, waits a while. You can't get any type of rhythm. He can't do anything. He would have been well served going elsewhere. Much better served being on a different team and being utilized in a very different role. The difference is the Jets thought they would be competitive late in the season, and you're going to use that 2-headed monster and grind people down, particularly as the weather turns and you're getting into the cold and the slop and all that stuff. It didn't happen in like that. So, yeah, I mean, a Dalvin Cook would probably have made quite a difference in Buffalo. I don't know that he's going to win them 3 more games, but right now, Buffalo single-handedly just hangs on Josh Allen heroics to be able to win games. And there's no room for error there. And that's not fair to Josh Allen either, but you did pay him $50 million a year. So it is what it is. But
don't forget that. He's paid handsomely to be the guy. And right now he's anything but. So, very, very odd year for them. So maybe you can just chalk it up to an odd year. But I mean, look, I think I just, as constructed, they're just not, it's just not what we thought this team should be. And they're not going to get any better staying still again next year. So,
yep. Agreed. All right. So let's do a little look ahead to the upcoming week. Now we look at week 13 of the NFL. Again, we're not going to go through every game, but what games jump out at you? Anything that kind of jumps off the page that you're particularly interested in seeing?
Oh, 100%. The end of an era in Washington, D.C., as the Commanders take on the Miami Dolphins in what could have been Tua Tagovailoa on this Washington Commanders team. Number 2 pick in that 2020 draft. They had a chance to take anyone outside of Joe Burrow, and they decide to take a guy who is no longer on that team, who went to San Francisco for not even a 3rd-round pick, a compensatory 3rd-round pick. I mean, it's just a stamp on what he did there in Washington. And again, letting this guy have full control like this. And really, I guess nobody else wanted that position or wanted that job because no one wanted to deal with Snyder. But it's just kind of man, what could have been? Now, I don't know. I feel like Washington, outside of, a few quarterbacks, just completely messes quarterbacks up. So would Tua have been any good in Washington? I don't know. But you had a chance to get a top flight quarterback and you decided to take Chase Young. And that's just such an indictment on him. And it's just crazy that this is kind of like the end of his career there. And you're now going to see, Tua. You can have Justin Herbert. I mean, it's just really anyone outside of Chase Young you could have taken in that draft and done so much better than what you did. And, for all it's worth, Chase Young was Defensive Player of the Year. And then everything just went downhill from there. It's just like anytime they win any offensive, defensive rookie of the year, you just hope that they don't win it, because after that, apparently everything just goes downhill. And that's exactly what it did. I mean, just imagine, Tua on that team.
Oh, Tua throwing to Terry McLaurin. I mean, come on, Jahan Dotson. I mean, what Washington could have done with Tua and their current talent, or again, a Justin Herbert, right? I mean, either one. But with that current talent, like, again, we talked about it before, Washington is not a bad place for a head coach to be going right now. This is a very hot commodity. I don't think people really have an appreciation for the fact that the talent level in Washington is high. The desire to win is high. New ownership with deep pockets coming in. Like, if I were a coach, this is the time. The bar is incredibly low. I mean, everything is lined up for you to be successful. I don't think the average fan thinks of the Washington job as being an elite opportunity for a head coach. And I think just the opposite. I don't know where else I would want to be this offseason if I were going in, based on the openings that I know will be there or I think will be there.
It's definitely, to me, it is the best place they can possibly be, with draft picks, with having, I want to say they have something like $90 million in salary, in salary cap available. You may, and we talk about Tua. That's not to discount Sam Howell and what he's done. However, Sam Howell's a 5th-round pick, and they're going to probably have a top 5 pick. Could be as high as 4, maybe 3, depending on what happens these last few games.
Yeah.
So you got to think they're going to probably take a quarterback there. I just don't think they're going to pass up again. Unless you just get some crazy trade haul that you just say, in the next quarterback or next, coach that comes in says, yeah, we like Sam. We like what we see.
Yeah.
He still throws too many picks, still takes too many sacks. And, he's 5th round. I know the old adage is like, if this guy was a 1st-round pick, ifs and buts, but he's not a 1st-round pick. He's a 5th-round pick, and you have a chance now to draft in the top 3. And it's not like, he's leading the league in passing, but that's because he leads the league in throws. So, I mean, it's not that difficult to do when you lead the league in throws, to lead the league, in passing yards. So, now, if they don't and they decide to go elsewhere, it's, they could go, like a nice left tackle. There's a lot of places, a lot of things they can do, but that's the beauty of having that, having that option, either to build around Sam Howell or taking one of those top flight, QBs, and then building around that QB with, an offensive line with some, you got someone like, T. Higgins or someone that could come in. KJ Osborne, you got a lot of options at wide receiver too that you can sign in free agency. I think it's a beautiful spot to be in. The question is what do they do now? Do you take take one of these, a Ben Johnson, or do you go with one of these, old school, have been head coaches before, Steve Spagnuolo? Do you go in that direction? That's the $1 million question. That'll be interesting to see what they do. If you look kind of at Harris and what he's done, like with basketball, he's always brought in the experienced coaches. Yeah. So I guess for that reason, I wouldn't rule out Belichick. I would just rule out Belichick of him giving Belichick the keys to the personnel as well. So if Belichick's willing to come in and just be the coach, then I could see that happening. I just don't think Bill is going to do that, but we'll see. So that's the question: is do you bring in one of these hot OCs, or do you go with an established, an established coach, or a been there before kind of a coach?
Well, there's one other option. We obviously know that they could promote Eric Bieniemy from within. Feels like they won't. I feel like they probably should. Feels like they probably won't. Then you have someone like a Frank Reich, who now just became available because the Panthers are just dysfunctional. So it is interesting. The other thing, though, that I was going to say was, in Washington, if you had a top 3 pick, do you consider a Marvin Harrison Jr.? I mean, can you imagine what you're doing for your quarterback with that receiving core of Terry McLaurin, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Jahan Dotson? I mean, 5th round pick, Mr. Irrelevant, I don't care who you are. If you're in that scenario thrown to those guys, you can overcome a lot of weaknesses. And then it becomes a matter of, okay, do you want that head coach who's that offensive genius because that's who you picked? Or do you want a steady hand at head coach like a Frank Reich because you have a lot of young players on that team and you just got to keep them together and guide them? Frank's pretty good at that. He obviously didn't get a fair shake in Indianapolis, but that's just insane. I don't know. I haven't fully formed my opinion yet on Frank Reich to Washington, but I do think it's worth a look. And then beyond that, it's going to be the guys that, like you mentioned, Ben Johnson in Detroit, Bobby Slowick in Houston, who I was touting him last season as a potential candidate for a bunch of different roles. So, including the Ravens offensive coordinator. So there's a lot of interesting ones. And I'll tell you someone who I'm curious to see if he gets any bites as a head coaching candidate this offseason.
I think I already know what you're going to say, but I'll let you go ahead and say it.
I'm going to say Ravens defensive coordinator Mike McDonald.
Oh, nope. Wasn't going to go there.
Oh, okay. So, young guy, very, very creative and innovative on defense. Clearly, the Ravens have played phenomenal defense and, could be an interesting fit. I don't know that he would, but there's a reputation being formed right now around him and what he's been able to do that I think there are a lot of owners could be interested in something like that.
I like that for Washington if you can somehow convince Eric Bieniemy to stay as your offensive coordinator. If you can, ton of sense. I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. The name I was going to throw out, and the name I think is going to be available more so this year than any other year, is going to be Jim Harbaugh.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I think
we talked about it a while
back.
Harbaugh makes perfect sense for Washington. Like, I don't remember, was it a month ago that we were talking about this? And I said that, like, he would be 45 minutes away from his brother. He is a proven winner. He takes over that. I mean, it would just make all the sense in the world. Now, I don't know about the coordinators, and he might only stay there for so long because he's tough to work with and all of those types of things. You got to put the right GM in there to be able to work with him and deal with him. But it would be a heck of a move and a beautiful splash play hire for a new ownership group as well, to bring in a Jim Harbaugh into Washington.
And I think that's what they want to do. They want to make the splash of, like, look at us, we're back. We are Washington. I think it makes a lot of sense there. Again, I don't know if he comes in, if you're now you're able to convince an Eric Bieniemy to stick around. But I don't know that I would be totally upset if Bieniemy left to go somewhere else at that point. Just because you're getting Harbaugh in there. So, and look, he did an amazing job in San Francisco. Again, just a tough guy to work for. But the culture in Washington, there is none.
That's
so
right.
They don't have a culture. So imagine someone like him coming in there and building that culture up. Especially, with and you've already got the guys there. In my opinion, you've got the guys in there that are someone that you would want to build your culture around. Deron Payne, Terry McLaurin. I mean, you got
Jonathan
guys,
Allen. You've
Jonathan
got
Allen.
good guys.
So you guys got on both sides of the ball that you really can build your culture around, and someone like him just to steer that ship, I think would make all the difference in the world.
Yeah. No, I think it makes total sense. I think it makes total sense. Yeah, obviously we don't want to belabor this point too long to just sit here and talk about Washington. We got a show to do, but that is a game. I'm going to tell you a game that's coming up this weekend that no one in their right mind would have been interested in going into this season. That now, even though I probably don't want to watch it or won't watch it, would still be interested to see the final result. You know where I'm going with this. That is the Denver Broncos and the Houston Texans, and man, now this went from a game that you would have to pay me to watch and tape my eyelids open to now a game where you go, okay, this is kind of interesting. And there are actual stakes to this game. This game actually means something. That's pretty interesting to see.
100%. I mean, you got Denver, who's won, what is this now, 5 straight they've won,
I believe.
now they're 6-5, and you got Russell Wilson. It's very under the radar year.
Yes,
this guy is he's now thrown for 2,200 yards, 20 touchdowns, only 4 picks. I mean, he's playing really good football, completing 68% of his passes. He's playing good football, man. Like, they're doing something there, right? And it was after that 70-point blowout that they that defense has turned around. That defense is completely turned around after that. And I don't know, what they did there. What Peyton has done is nothing short of amazing considering where they started. And you thought, ooh, man, Peyton, like, what is this guy about? What he's lost it. He's lost the team already. Talks like, is he even going to make it a whole entire year? We're looking like they're going to find any possible way they can to get out of that Russell Wilson contract. And now, man, they look like they got something they can build around there. So I 100%. I knew that's where you're going to go. That's a good one.
Yeah, I'll be curious about that one. So, yeah, we got some interesting games. Look, now we're to that part in the NFL season where we have a pretty good feel for who's who and what's what. And now the games just have to shake themselves out and they have to be played. And some upsets are going to happen, of course, and things like that. But now we know they're upsets because now we know who should be winning these games and who should be losing. And that makes a big difference. So now every game becomes a whole lot more interesting. And we've got some young, unproven talent and things like that right now that can keep their teams competitive in areas that they aren't normally competitive this late in the season. So should be a fun weekend ahead. Anything you want to touch on NFL before I move past that? I have other NFL related things, but for the upcoming games or anything.
No, I mean, we'll have to get into this here probably in the next couple of weeks, but just how many coaching positions are more than likely going to be open. I'm guessing it's going to be 5 to 7 coaches that are going to be let go. So there's going to be a run on coaches. It's going to be as always, it's the off season is going to just take over everything else again. So boy, they know how to do it in the NFL. But yeah, there's going to be a ton of coaches let go. And there's going to be a lot of opportunities out there for some people to come in to these different positions. So then we'll get into that in the next couple of weeks, maybe break down which teams we think are probably going to move on. So,
yeah. And, speaking, we touched on this briefly, but I do want to hit on it too. Speaking of coaches moving on. So we know Frank Reich just got fired from the Carolina Panthers.
Can we say, before you go further, can we now elevate Dave Tepper to the worst owner in the NFL?
I mean, with Dan Snyder out and Jerry Jones quiet, it's starting to look like that might be the case with Tepper. I mean, and our buddy Joey Pomp, as I call him, Joe Pompliano, broke down a couple things. I love pulling stuff from him, and he was saying that David Tepper spent over $2.5 billion on the Carolina Panthers in the NFL and the Charlotte Football Club, which is Major League Soccer. He's gone through 5 coaches in 4 years, including 4 in the last 18 months. The Panthers also don't have a first-round pick this year, And Tepper, the owner, is now currently on the hook for about $25 million in buyout fees for his last 2 NFL coaches. Pretty rough stuff. His last 2 were, of course, Matt Rule, who came over from the college ranks, and then now Frank Reich. We've seen the most successful organizations in the NFL are patient and steady, and they will trust that things will work out because they make the right hiring decisions in the first place. Tepper is a fail fast guy. Like, if he does not think it's the right person, he just get rid of him, get the right person in, let's keep moving. This is something we've seen owner after owner after owner struggle with in the NFL, is that it doesn't run like business because it takes time for a head coach to execute his vision, to get his players in there. I mean, Frank Reich had a 0 chance to be successful with the Carolina Panthers. You give him a rookie quarterback who then got injured. You give him a career backup who now has to be a starter. You gave him a solid running back, except in a contract dispute, who's holding out, and then who finally comes back halfway through the season and is now injured. I mean, and not a whole lot of other talent on the team, and still is still in the playoff hunt. Whether you can say that they underperformed or not, it's, of course they've underperformed. They're not a good team, but I don't see that this is a coaching issue in Carolina.
No. You may be conflating Frank Reich in Indy and not in Carolina, because Carolina is
yes,
definitely not in the playoff hunt. I was like, I don't think they've officially been eliminated, but
why was I thinking about Indy? Yes.
At 1-9, I don't think they're going to. Maybe that now they'll make the run of all runs.
Right. Late run.
But I don't know. They fired everybody, right? Josh McCown's gone. I think they fired their. I think they fired the whole entire offense, to be honest. And now there's rumors that everyone wanted CJ Stroud and not Bryce Young. And
funny how that all happens.
Weird. And you did see, the pre-draft stuff where, Josh McCown is talking about golfing with Bryce Young and doing all this stuff. So, and then apparently they had a something in place to move up to take, CJ, and then that fell through. And it's kind of weird that now Tepper's coming out and saying that while Bryce Young is there. So it's just a very, very odd thing now that you're coming out saying, like, yeah, we really tried to get CJ. And meanwhile, Bryce Young's like, wait, what?
Excuse me?
What?
Well, it's interesting too, because, what I've heard, and I don't know what's true, but what I've heard is that Frank Reich wanted CJ Stroud. David Tepper wanted Bryce Young. 100%. They drafted Bryce Young. Lo and behold, it isn't working out. And my guess is that maybe there might have been one too many meetings when Frank Reich brought up the fact that he wanted CJ to begin with. And they needed someone who truly was bought in and believed in Bryce Young. And maybe that's not Frank Reich.
Yeah, I think that's probably 100% accurate right there.
And if that's the case, let me talk out the other side of my mouth here. If that is the case, then yes, Frank Reich should move on. If he's not fully bought into your quarterback, then yes, as an owner, I understand you got to make a change. Do you need to make it right now? I don't know about that. You could easily, because I don't think you have anyone on your coaching staff who's going to be your head coach next season. So if you're needing to bring someone in, it's not like you need an interim coach in the meantime. My guess is something happened behind the scenes that forced this to be sped up. Everything I've heard about David Tepper is that he's a pretty volatile guy, personality-wise, emotional guy. So, yeah, my guess is something was said, something happened that angered him, and, he made the change. But clearly it isn't going to be better. Now, again, is that an attractive position when you're coming into it?
Man. I was going to say the only win that the Panthers actually got was against C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans.
There you go.
Is it? I don't know, man. It's for someone, I could see, one of these offensive coordinators, a Slowick or someone coming in saying, yeah, I can work with Bryce Young. Maybe you can. I wouldn't totally write Bryce Young off at this point. I mean, I really wouldn't. We had our our doubts about him.
Yep.
Many YouTube arguments, comment
That's
arguments
right.
over it.
Yes.
I mean, the guy's not, he's 5'9". I mean, he weighs, it looks like he weighs less than 170 pounds out there. I mean, I don't know, but I think you could probably build around him. And I think there'd be an offensive coordinator out there that would see this job and say, yeah, I could definitely work with him. So it'll be attractive only because someone may think that they can work with him. Outside of that, though, who wants to work with Tepper knowing that, like, he's not going to give you a chance to build what you want to build there?
Right. You need the results instantly, and that's just not going to happen in the league. The NFL, that doesn't happen. So
No, I was listening on the way home to Moving the Chains with old Pat Kerwin and Jim Miller, and they were talking about that. We're talking about Eberflus in Chicago, and how everyone wants him gone and everything. And Kerwin, former GM, knows his stuff. Was like, you expect a someone with no experience to come in and know everything right away.
Yeah.
Know how to manage, a team, know how to manage a staff. And they don't. You can't expect them to know this stuff right away. You're not giving these guys an opportunity to build their vision or to see everything through. You just want this, microwave stuff. You want it done now. You don't want it to marinate. You want everything right now as it is. And if that's what you want, then that's where you need to go out and hire an experienced coach who knows all this stuff,
Yeah.
But yeah, I just, it's got to be one of the least attractive jobs for sure.
Yeah. But the thing that's funny is that in Carolina, they are a very supported team. I mean, you think the Panthers have reached the Super Bowl twice in the last 20 years, and they're consistently in the top 10 in attendance in the NFL. And then Tepper's other, his soccer team there, the Charlotte Football Club, they set the MLS attendance record in 2022. So he's got valuable sports properties that he owns. David Tepper has valuable sports properties. Charlotte is a sports town, apparently, if you look at it. They show up for the Panthers. They show up for soccer, but they're not going to keep showing up if you're just inconsistent and just constantly switching them out, moving different things. Fans need people that they need consistency in an organization. And even as a fan, you want your team to be consistent and a steady hand that you can trust that there is a process happening. The adage, it kind of almost becomes a cliche at this point of trust the process. But you need to believe there is a process. And if you have an owner that's firing coaches constantly, then you have no faith or confidence that there's a process there. And that means it's hard to draw free agents. It's hard to draw up and coming assistant coaches. It just becomes more challenging all the way around.
100%. I mean, and there's no talent there in Carolina. So I don't know what you expected of the coach there. I don't know what you expected out of him. There's just nothing there right now. Like, give him time, let him try and build something there. So that's why, to me, it's going to be out of the 7 jobs that are probably going to become available. I would say it's probably the least attractive at this point outside of Bryce Young. I think it's the least attractive because what else do they have there?
Yeah, it's tough. Not a lot of talent on that team right now, and no first round pick. There's no reason to think you're going to get things restocked anytime, soon.
No.
So it's challenging, man. Very challenging. And then you gave up DJ Moore. So, you had a really good number 1 receiver to pair with your young quarterback, and you traded him away. And then you used the first round pick to move up to get Bryce Young. So you now don't have a first round pick this year. So you're just kind of in this cycle that makes it very difficult to get it turned around.
Yeah, 100%. So we'll see what happens. I mean, they got a few games left. Let's see how hard they play and, what they're playing for. I mean, really, at this point, you're not even playing for draft pick because, like you said, you don't have one. So, best to go out there and actually try and win. So,
yeah. All right. So moving on, I thought there was something else that I saw statistically that we talked about on the show a few times with the NFL, which is NFL fines. And we talked about how, and we've started to see people, JJ Watt is big talking about, the NFL fining players for doing these things. It's just unbelievable. Like, it's so silly. I just saw somebody got fined. Rob St. Brown got fined a significant amount of money, but somebody else, and I'm gonna draw a blank on if it was Brian Robinson from Washington or some running back, got fined like $26,000 because he ran the ball, and as he went into the line, he had his head down a little bit and it's a big fine. It's just silly. But here are the numbers. So for the entire 2022 NFL season, there were 166 infractions and nearly $15.5 million in fines. So far through week 11 of 2023, it went from 166 infractions to 326, and they're already at nearly $15.6 million in fines. So it's already eclipsed all of the fines from all of last year, and it's 2.5 times as many infractions. What's happening to the game, right? I mean, something's going on. Something is happening.
It's the oddest, weirdest thing because you're seeing these fines like what guys just going in. Jalen Warren has been fined, like one of the top people that have been fined. Like, it's literally taking his entire paychecks. I mean, I have to assume there's a benefactor slipping him money or something because otherwise it doesn't make sense. But yeah, and how is the Players Association behind this? How are they not stepping in and saying more? It is the weirdest thing. I mean, you're finding players for making normal plays. I mean, there's some plays like, yeah, okay, fine, they deserve a fine.
Yeah.
But some of this stuff is just run of the mill. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if they've been told you are being fined for this stuff. This is what we're looking out for this year. You do this. But like running into a line full of 350-pound men with your head down is insane that you're going to fine a person for making, just a normal football play. I don't, and they're not saying anything. And this is what the NFL does that infuriates people so much is they don't say, here's why we're doing this. It's just, he got fined. And then you see the plays that they got fined on here. What in the world?
We played the video the other week of Patrick Ricard, the Ravens fullback, getting fined for running up the middle, like blocking for his running back. And the guy that he's blocking fell down. It's like, oh, that's a $26,000 fine or whatever it was. And you're just kind of like, how in the world, what are you supposed to do as a fullback? Your job is to go in and block the guy in front of you. And on a running play, you're pushing him backwards. How is that wrong to do? It's just crazy what the NFL's turning into. It's not good.
No, like I said, I mean, and this is something where's the Players Association? I haven't heard a peep from them either.
Nope.
You got JJ Watt and all these, former players coming out saying, what are we doing here? Why are we taking money out of the players' pockets? And who's getting this money? Like, now there's $15.5 million. Who's getting this? What are you doing with it?
Yeah, they claim they give it to charity, but it's like, well, where can I see your list of donations?
Yeah, show me who's on your charity foundation. Who's controlling that?
It's like a George Costanza. It's the human fund. Money for people.
Exactly.
That's the only thing that would make sense, right? It's just, it's going to the human fund because I'm pretty sure that the NFL would tout it. The NFL does not miss an opportunity to talk about their social programs and their community involvement and their charity work and everything else. And of course, they spend millions of dollars to create commercials that then air during the games that they have to pay for to place those commercials on the TV stations to talk about how charitable they are. So if you're giving away millions of dollars to charities because of these fines, I'm pretty sure they'd let us know it.
Right. Imagine showing a Patrick Ricard fine and being like, this fine just, fed 10,000 people in Africa.
That's right.
What? So, off.
Yeah, so these fines are just, it's ridiculous. And $15.5 million means that based on where we are in the season, there's a high likelihood that it will eclipse $20 million in fines this year. And again, like you said, for what? For what? What is it changing? What's it accomplishing? What are you doing with the money? What's happening with it? No answers. No answers.
No, I mean, and I can guarantee, nobody wants to call it, the hip drop tackle. They just say it's a
Mm-hmm.
tackle. I guarantee that's going to be outlawed and that's going to be
Oh, yeah.
fine. And it's like, dude, like I, I don't want to see 60 to 58 scores.
No.
Like I just don't want to see that. And you're just going to water down the product so much.
Agreed. Agreed.
So yeah.
Really briefly too, I want to throw this up here because this is something that, you touched on earlier, and I will give just a slightly different take. You were talking about Jordan Love versus Jalen Hurts. Here's Jordan Love versus Aaron Rodgers in their first 12 starts. See if you can find closer stats than this. They are within 20 yards passing of each other from their first 12 career starts. Each of them threw 20 passing touchdowns. Jordan Love has one more interception with 11 than Aaron Rodgers did with 10. Aaron Rodgers did have a better completion percentage, 64% to 60. Quarterback rating, a little better, 91.2 to 86.84. Each of them had a 5-7 record through their first 12 starts.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, it's
that
really
is
all
unbelievable.
about, how I guess someone sees it, perspective, but
Yeah.
It's amazing. I'm telling you, man, when I watch them, I don't know, I don't quote me as a judge of talent, but when I see Jordan Love, there's a whole lot there to like. And I just think you get him some wide receivers and you keep building that lineup and you keep protecting him. Man, I think you got something there with him, but hey, we'll see.
Well, the problem is, everybody remembers what happened for Aaron Rodgers, the last 10 years of his career. And they forget the first year of his career, the first 12 games of his career, right? And we do this all the time with, with so many players. We were just talking about Bryce Young. We always want to make these decisions on guys, right away. Brady didn't start right away, as a 6th round pick. And lots of guys don't. Aaron Rodgers didn't start right away. And so, you have these scenarios. They don't come in and they just light the world on fire. I mean, Aaron Rodgers came in and played well. Well, guess what? Jordan Love is coming in and playing well for the most part. Can he improve? Of course he can improve, and he should improve, and he will improve. But the idea that we have enough to make a decision based on that, we would have said 12 games in Aaron Rodgers' career, he's good, but he's not the guy. So we need to get rid of him and we need to find the guy. And if you're going to have that attitude, you're going to be a David Tepper and just continue to run in circles and see no changes. So, yeah.
That's exactly it. And Jordan Love's still only 25 years old. Let's not forget
Right.
it. He actually just turned 25. So still very young, still able to make a full career out of what he's doing. So I just, it's weird to me that how fast they want to run this guy out of town. And I just, man, just be steady, man. Just you're Green Bay.
Yeah.
This is what you do.
Yes.
You
don't make rash decisions.
This is what you've done now for, geez, what are we looking at? 30 years at this point? This is what you do. Maybe longer than that at this point, but you are steady and you just build and you draft these guys and let them sit for a couple of years, and then you let them take over. But just be steady with it, man. Minimally, I think he deserves 2 more years at this point. Let's see what he can do. Unless somehow next year he just completely falls flat on his face. But he's not going to do that. If he was going to do it, he would have already done it. And he's not. He's not fallen. I feel like he's only getting better. This last week, 268 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 125 QB rating. Just
and that's
let
prime
the guy
time,
be.
baby. That's Thanksgiving Day. That's pressure, nationwide audience. That's what you
against
want.
a team that you think is a dark horse for the Super Bowl. This is, he keeps the team in it. I mean, I don't think he's out there losing a bunch of games. He's being steady, man. Just stay the course with him. Just stay the course.
Not bad advice. All right, so closing the show, I thought I wanted to touch on something. Again, I'm going to quote our buddy Joe Pompliano because he had this, and you and I think maybe even on our group chat, we were talking about, Thanksgiving, and of course this being the first Black Friday NFL game. and, Amazon having that and what that looked like. Amazon paid $100 million to broadcast that one NFL game on Black Friday. But it was an incredibly smart move by them, because if you look, first of all, just at the viewership of Thanksgiving Day games, last year's Thanksgiving Day games averaged 33.5 million viewers, 42 million viewers for the Cowboys and Giants alone. That was the most watched regular season game of all time. And that was last Thanksgiving. To give you an idea of average viewership, 2022 average viewership, NBA basketball on Christmas Day, 4.27 million views or viewers. NFL Thanksgiving Day, 33.5 million. I mean, 8 times plus the number of people. The NFL's never done a Black Friday game, and I thought this was really interesting because it seems like it makes a lot of sense to do Black Friday. You do Thanksgiving, why wouldn't you do Black Friday, right? Here's why. The NFL has never done a Black Friday game because, one, it's a holiday that's known for people leaving the house to go shopping, and two, and maybe most importantly, the Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961 prohibits NFL games on Fridays after 6 p.m. Eastern and all day on Saturdays during the fall. The rule was implemented by Congress to protect high school and college football from seeing a decline in attendance and viewership because of the NFL. Now, first of all, if we stop right there, isn't that insane that Congress literally made TV rules to protect college football from the NFL? And now, of course, we know college football's on Saturdays and NFL's on Sundays. But isn't it interesting how government gets involved to protect the interests of sports leagues?
Yeah, again, just another thing that they don't need to be involved in, but they love to put their little grubby hands into whatever they can get their grubby hands into. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, but here's what's crazier. So Amazon offered the NFL $100 million for the Black Friday game. So normally you would have that game at night, but the NFL decided, okay, well, we can take the money and we put the game on at 3 p.m. so that way we can get around the rule because you're not supposed to be on after 6 p.m. So that makes it, first of all, that's already a win. Right now, Amazon gets to say that, hey, we have the first ever Black Friday game, and you drive all these views and everything else. Amazon's allowing anyone to watch. And so this is a really interesting thing. Amazon's first Thursday Night Football broadcast generated more Amazon Prime signups than any other 3-hour window in company history. And Amazon is also reportedly charging twice as much for the Black Friday game as they do their Thursday Night Football 30-second ad placement. So to give you an idea, the cost of a 30-second commercial on Thursday Night Football is $440,000. For Black Friday, Amazon charged $880,000 for commercials during their game.
That is unbelievable.
It's almost $1 million for 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
They paid $100 million for the game. So if you aired more than 105, 110 commercials during that game, you already covered, if Amazon didn't sell a single thing, you had already covered the cost of doing it in the first place. But I actually like this part the best. More importantly, Amazon is leveraging a new strategy called audience-based creative. It enables brands to target different audience segments with different ads in the same time slot. For example, according to Ad Age, Bose showed 3 different ads using Amazon's ad technology. The first ad features Joe Burrow and is delivered to non-Prime members, so people watching on regular TV. The other 2 Bose ads feature different products and are only shown to Prime members, and it's based on their Amazon Prime search history. So literally, if you had seen like whichever they think would be the product you'd be most likely to buy based on your search history, that is the ad that they are showing you during the game. So it's literally turning into like internet advertising on TV going off of your search history on Amazon.
So next time I am watching an Amazon game and I say, man, I could go for some nice fat pretzels right now.
That's
There's
right.
going to be a pretzel ad that pops up because it heard me talk. That's
Getting
what it's
there.
going to be. Jeez,
Well,
that's
and it's really getting there
genius.
because here's the next thing. The targeted ads are also shoppable, meaning that viewers can watch the commercial, place the product in their cart with the click of a button, and check out without ever leaving the broadcast. So this means the ad comes up, it will literally show a QR code or something you can just click or click it with your remote, and then it will put that product right in your cart and just keep on playing. You don't have to move. You don't have to pick up your phone and look up that product. It's just like, you interested in this? Boom, done. It's in my cart now.
It just, this is what happens whenever a business just has more money than they could ever spend and just keeps coming up with new innovative ideas. It's I mean, that's just genius. And
Yeah.
I'm sure people were just like, oh, I can add this to my cart. Let me just go ahead and buy this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nuts. I mean, it made so much sense to do it. Did you watch it? Did you enjoy it? I mean, it was weird,
I
right?
didn't watch it, to be honest with you. I did not watch the Black Friday
Yeah.
game. I think I saw maybe a couple of minutes of it, but that, yeah, I was, I did not see the game.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it, but it was just weird that like I'm watching a NFL football game on a Friday. It just,
Yeah.
you remember like during COVID when like I think the Steelers played on a Tuesday once and
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
Wednesday, just really weird stuff, you
Yeah.
know. And that's kind of how it felt. Like, no, this doesn't feel right. You know, this should be Sunday, Monday, you know, or
Yeah.
Thursday, not Friday, but. No, I mean, I imagine this is going to be something that was successful enough that there will continue. Now this will continue. So
Yeah. And I think you'll start seeing it on all their Thursday night broadcasts and everything. And you know, it's super smart, man. It is really, really smart. And they have figured out a way to monetize that, where you would think you're really going to spend $100 million for one game, but they may have made $250 million from it or more. And it's well worth it for them, particularly on Black Friday. Because what do you want? You want people to stay home instead of going out. They can get all their shopping done. You're advertising to them during the game. I mean, it's, if they're home, there's a good chance they're watching the NFL. And so you just have a captive audience and you can just advertise, click here, boom, it's done. We'll take care of your holiday shopping for you. Pretty
just
good.
yeah, it's just going to keep on getting more and more interesting as Amazon gets more and more involved. So
Yeah.
and don't look for them to only stop at Thursday night games or Friday games. You know, Black Friday games. They're going to get their hands on a lot more stuff lately coming
Better
up.
believe it. They got deep pockets.
Deep.
And way more than ESPN can afford, way
100%.
more than some of these other folks can afford.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes a lot of sense for Amazon to get more involved, and they've been a good partner with the NFL. It's actually worked. I don't like the pregame, halftime, and postgame crew on Amazon. It's horrible. I don't know how you could have done it worse.
No, I completely agree.
So weird.
I just don't watch it, to be perfectly honest. I'll turn that game on 8:15, 8:20. That's when I flip on because I have no interest in watching anything to do with that pregame or postgame stuff.
No, it's brutal crew that they have there. All these people that on paper are supposed to have personalities. I'm putting air quotes in this. None of these people have personalities. It's like wheeling out a bunch of potted plants and putting them at a desk and expecting, to get views that way. And it's just so dull. Andrew Whitworth is a guy who I just can't even comprehend being on TV, or I see him in commercials. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. Richard Sherman's just completely boring. Ryan Fitzpatrick is a guy who everyone is desperate to have some type of personality. He just doesn't. I don't know what you want me to tell you.
I don't have it. Outside of him like coming to a press conference wearing a jacket with gold chain, I don't get it. I just don't get the appeal in him. So
No.
it's just And then Andrew Whitworth of all people, like an offensive lineman, like what? It's just very very weird crew setup, and they're pushing it, man. They are definitely definitely pushing it. I don't think anything like they're. Well, to be fair, I don't think any of the people's like breakdowns of these games and everything else is good. Like it's just the same old stuff. It's not like I watch this game, watch the pre-games and learn something. I just that's why I just don't waste my time. Like there's no value added for me whatsoever.
Agreed. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up. Any last words from you? Any wise words to leave the listeners with?
Oh no. Me and wise
Absolutely
words
not.
do not go hand in hand. So no.
All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up. Enjoy the games, everybody. If you are betting, you got any money out there, good luck to you. Hope you hit on all your crazy parlays and everything else. And we will do our best to keep you entertained. We will enjoy the games with you, and we will talk soon. Have a great day, everybody. Good
Good
night.
night.